Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
It's Masters Week. We're in Augusta, Georgia at the Masters tournament at the Augusta National Golf Club, and with us, immediate past president of the Golf Writers Association of America, Vartan Kupelian. And immediate past, your work is done.
Yeah, I've been done now for about 15 minutes, and it feels good. You know, it's always a pleasure to do something like that. It's you do it because you want to do it. You think maybe you can contribute something, and it was a very interesting 2 years. As I said in the meeting, there were some difficult times, but there were some good times. You know, happy times, sad times. It's all that. But you do it because you want to do it. You feel like you're maybe giving a little bit something back, and so I was pleased to do it, and it turned out good.
Well, you had a couple of very dramatic incidents during your tenure, one of which was the whole thing where the Golf Writers Association of America became the story, and that was the Tiger Woods not quite a press conference. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I can just say the first thing you learn in journalism school is that you're never supposed to be the story. You know, you write the story, you aren't the story, but as things evolved, that's kind of what it became. I mean, we became almost the bigger story. The boycott almost became a bigger story than Tiger's statement, which it was never a press conference. It was a statement, and you know, and there was a lot that went into the decision. And one of the things was obviously that if we couldn't, you know, do our job by asking questions, by making various inquiries during the thing, there was really no point in being there. We could stand outside the room, which is what we did, and write the story. That was the misconception. I got a lot of emails from readers and people saying that, well, do your job. What do you mean you're not going to go to the press conference? Well, it wasn't a press conference, and we did do our job. We covered the story. You know, people say, well, you got to cover the story. Well, we did cover the story. We just chose not to be in that room when he said what he said. We watched it on monitors like everybody else in America, and we wrote, you know, we still wrote what we wrote, so that didn't change. But, you know, I think it's somewhat typical when you, the way things are now with 24-hour news cycles and bloggers and, you know, talk shows. Everybody's got an opinion, and you know, when you're on the air 24 hours, you got to fill time somehow, and you reach conclusions that just aren't true. And I think that's kind of what happened. We kind of got caught up in that, and I don't think we did anything wrong. I think we did exactly what we should have done. And if some of our readers didn't quite understand what was happening, well, maybe they know now.
Well, I think it's a good example for journalism in particular, and there are young journalists coming up that will be looking to that as a way to conduct themselves and what journalism is.
I think journalism is all about, you know, being professional at what you do. I think if there's something I would, you know, tell the golf writers or any young journalist is be professional. You want to be treated like a professional, act like a professional, and I think the golf writers were every bit as professional as they could be during that entire incident.
I agree. It was very interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit about your years in journalism. How did you first begin covering golf?
You know what, my life in journalism is way too long and detailed probably, but I covered my first major championship in 1973, and people don't realize that, but I covered Johnny Miller at Oakmont in '73, and then I went the next year. I started covering the Red Wings in hockey, and so that's something I did for nearly 2 decades, 18 years, 17 years, something like that. And then I covered 5 Olympics in 5 different countries and did an assortment of things. And then in 1994, they asked me if I wanted to cover golf, and I thought that might not be a bad way to go into retirement, you know. So that's what I've done full time since '94. Between '94 and the time I took the buyout at the News in September of '08. So it's been great. I've covered over 100 majors, and look at the setting. How could it be better? Well, I mean, how can you have a better job than this? I mean, it can't do it. It doesn't exist.
Speaking of the setting, do you remember the first time you saw this course at Augusta National and what you thought?
It was probably in the 70s sometime. I came down with a buddy who lived in South Carolina. I went to school with him. We came down in the 70s. We walked up to the front gate and bought tickets. We just walked up, put our whatever it was, put the money down, and the guy gave us a ticket. That was it. It wasn't like it is now, where there is no way of getting tickets. But that's how it was back then. You could walk up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm not sure, but I think it cost like either $5 or $10 to get in for a practice round Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And of course, my impression then is the same impression that everybody has when they walk into this place. I mean, look at it. It's spectacular. It's green. It's and you've heard it. We've all heard it. These fairways are like, they're better than the greens we putt in most places. And the greens are unparalleled. It's a spectacular place. I had a buddy of mine from Scotland. Last night I had dinner with him, and it's the first time he's been here. He writes for a leading magazine in Scotland. It's the first time he's been here. And he said that he arrived yesterday for the first time with some trepidation. He said, he thought that maybe he'd heard so much about it. He so anticipated this trip that he was afraid almost that he would be disappointed. And he said he was not disappointed. And that's what I tell people. There are a lot of places where you have great expectations, and invariably you get there, you expect so much that you are disappointed. This is one of those places that, regardless of where your expectations are, you are never disappointed. And I also told him that if he comes back next year, it'll be just as exciting as it is this year. I mean, I've been coming back for 30 years, and this place never gets old.
Well, it's interesting what you said about that feeling. I was telling Art this morning that I used to make kind of fun of Jim Nance's reverence, but then when you start to get near here, it starts to hit you. You start to feel it too, and when you get to the course, the thing that you don't see on TV is the elevation changes.
And the undulations in the greens. They're dramatic. You don't see those. Although you're getting closer to seeing them with HD TV. You get much closer to seeing those. But yeah, you don't know. This is a very difficult golf course to walk. I mean, some of these, like even the first fairway, which is behind us here, that's pretty steep from the base of that hill all the way to the top to the level part. That's pretty good incline. You don't see that. You don't see the greens. You don't see how massive some of the fairways are. They're very, very wide. Even with the what they now call the first cut, they're massive. I mean, they're big fairways.
They are, and you've watched several tournaments now. I don't know the exact number, but can you remember one of the more dramatic moments?
Well, I think the backdrop is such that, everything that happens here is dramatic. It's just the nature of the place, I was here in '97 when Tiger, at age 21, won the thing, and I was here when Ben Crenshaw went to Harvey Penick's funeral and came back, had no chance to win the thing, and guess what? He won the thing. So there are a lot. Jack's final round here a few years back, when he had that, asked me what I remember about that round. He finished on 9. He hit his approach shot in there about, 8 feet, and everybody in the world knew that Jack Nicklaus was going to leave this place by making birdie on his last hole. He missed the putt, and I was like, oh, Jack, you got to make this one, and he didn't make it. So yeah, everything that happens here is so dramatic, so cool.
Well, Jack had his best putt ever on 17 and 25 years ago. So
yeah, that was the anniversary. I wasn't here for that one, but that was, I think, the greatest story ever here, and there have been a lot.
There have been a lot, and one of the things that's interesting about covering a golf tournament is there's so many different approaches. You can follow a player, you can stay at a hole, you can stay in the press room. How do you do it?
Staying in the press room is not an option to covering a golf tournament. I think anybody who does that is missing out a lot. I think that on Thursday and Friday, you got to just be out there. It changes a little bit Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon when you start grinding on deadline, and you can only be one place if you're on the golf course, and you can't afford to be one place because you've got to start writing. So I'll cut you some slack if you're in the media center, watching on a monitor on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, just because that's what the job dictates. But if you don't come out, if you come to Augusta to cover this golf tournament and you stay in the media center, boy, you're missing out all the fun. You got to be out there. It's a cool place to be.
Well, you know, the media center itself is pretty special. I think this is the only golf venue that has its own building. That's a media center. It's not a tent, for a change.
Well, yeah, they have a permanent building, but there is one other, Muirfield Village, in Jack Nicklaus's place. They've got a media center there, which is a building with an auditorium, not nearly as large as this one. But yeah, this is unique because they come back here every year. They can have a building for this. And of course, Augusta, if they're going to do something, they're going to do it right. And they've done this building right. It's a great facility.
One of the things about the building that we've noticed is the photographs of the past presidents of the Golf Writers Association of America are on the wall, and yours will be joining them.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool, won't it?
Yeah.
And be up on a wall here at Augusta National, and come back and I've stopped doing this, and maybe walk up there if I could drag myself up those stairs, and that's very nice. That's a very nice thing that Augusta National does, and I'm thankful for them for that, as are all the GWA membership. That's kind of the one. They do classy things here, and that's certainly one of the classy things they do.
Well, Vartan, you've had a classy term, so congratulations on your service as president of the Golf Writers Association of America, and we look forward to seeing your stories about this year's Masters. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. Thanks.